And he goes, oh, so you're going to be freaked out by this too? Don't leave me. Don't desert me. This is like a best friend saying to another friend, everybody else is talking about me. They're all sending texts. They're all making negative comments. Don't leave me as my friend. And now she's like, but I don't understand. Why are you doing this? Can't you explain to me better why you're doing this? And he says, I can't explain it any better. You have to believe in me. Don't listen to what everybody else is saying. Believe in me. But it's going to be awfully hard for her, isn't it? Let's keep reading. Some of you go, wow, this is an interesting story. All of a sudden, this story starts to look a whole lot like a high school I know about.
Oh, this veil must be between us here on earth. Be mine, and hereafter there shall be no veil over my face, no darkness between our souls. It is but a mortal veil. It is not for eternity.
After I die, I get to take it off.
You know not how lonely I am, and how frightened to be alone behind my black veil. Do not leave me in this miserable obscurity forever. Lift the veil but once, and look me in the face, said she. Never. It cannot be, replied Mr. Hooper.
Wow. You know what's fascinating is notice what Hawthorne has him say. I'm a lonely person now. I've cut myself off from the rest of the world with this veil. Can't you understand this is hard on me too? Notice all of the people in the town took it personal, right? Why are you doing this? Not one person thought, I wonder what it's like for him to be behind the veil. In the same way that in high school often, if one kid gets picked on or made fun of, rarely does the rest of us think, I wonder what it's like to be him or her. I wonder what he or she is going through. Interesting how Hawthorne is going to make us think about trying to see the world from the other side, right? Readers of this poem often identify with the minister and his veil. Many readers of this poem sadly have to identify with the people of the town. The way we make assumptions about people without ever even knowing really them at all. Take a look at how she responds.
Then farewell.
Whoa.
Elizabeth.
That's it.
She withdrew her arm from his grasp and slowly departed, pausing at the door to give one long, shuddering gaze that seemed almost to penetrate the mystery of the black veil. But, even amid his grief, Mr. Hooper smiled to think that only a material emblem had separated him from happiness, though the horrors which it shadowed forth must be drawn darkly between the fondest of lovers. From that time, no attempts were made to remove Mr. Hooper's black veil, or, by a direct appeal, to discover the secret which it was supposed to hide. By persons who claimed a superiority to popular prejudice, it was reckoned merely an eccentric whim, such as often mingles with the sober actions of men otherwise rational, and tinges them all with its own semblance of insanity. But with the multitude, good Mr. Hooper was irreparably a bugbear. He could not walk the street with any peace of mind, so conscious was he that the gentle and timid would turn aside to avoid him, and that others would make it a point of hardihood to throw themselves in his way. The impertinence of the latter class compelled him to give up his customary walk at sunset to the burial ground, for when he leaned pensively over the gate, there would always be faces behind the gravestones, peeping at his black veil. A fable went the rounds that the stare of the dead people drove him thence. It grieved him to the very depth of his kind heart to observe how the children fled from his approach, breaking up their merriest sports, while his melancholy figure was yet afar off. Their instinctive dread caused him to feel more strongly than aught else that a preternatural horror was interwoven with the threads of the black crape. In truth, his own antipathy to the veil was known to be so great that he never willingly passed before a mirror, nor stooped to drink at a still fountain, lest, in its peaceful bosom, he should be affrighted by himself.
He doesn't want to look at the veil himself.
This was what gave plausibility to the whispers that Mr. Hooper's conscience tortured him for some great crime too horrible to be entirely concealed, or otherwise than so obscurely intimated. Thus, from beneath the black veil, there rolled a cloud into the sunshine, an ambiguity of sin or sorrow, which enveloped the poor minister so that love or sympathy could never reach him. It was said that ghost and fiend consorted with him there. With self-shudderings and outward terrors, he walked continually in its shadow, groping darkly within his own soul, or gazing through a medium that saddened the whole world. Even the lawless wind, it was believed, respected his dreadful secret, and never blew aside the veil. But still, good Mr. Hooper sadly smiled at the pale visages of the worldly throng as he passed by. Among all its bad influences, the black veil had the one desirable effect of making its wearer a very efficient clergyman. By the aid of his mysterious emblem, for there was no other apparent cause, he became a man of awful power over souls that were in agony for sin.
He becomes a good preacher.
His converts always regarded him with a dread peculiar to themselves, affirming, though but figuratively, that before he brought them to celestial light, they had been with him behind the black veil. Its gloom, indeed, enabled him to sympathize with all dark affections. Dying sinners cried aloud for Mr. Hooper, and would not yield their breath till he appeared, though ever, as he stooped to whisper consolation, they shuddered at the veiled face so near their own. Such were the terrors of the black veil, even when death had bared his visage. Strangers came long distances to attend service at his church, with the mere idle purpose of gazing at his figure.
People want to see it. They want to see him preach with his veil on.
But many were made to quake ere they departed. Once, during Governor Belcher's administration, Mr. Hooper was appointed to preach the election sermon. Covered with his black veil, he stood before the chief magistrate, the council, and the representatives, and wrought so deep an impression that the legislative measures of that year were characterized by all the gloom and piety of our earliest ancestral sway.
So, we're into the story, and we are recognizing now two things we want to write down at level 1. 1, wearing the veil has changed people around the minister. 2, wearing the veil has changed the minister. Both parties are involved. Hawthorne, the storyteller, tells us even the minister himself gets to where he doesn't want to look at himself in a mirror. Think about what the minister lost. Can you write down really quickly at 2A, what has the minister lost? He's lost the ability to have his girl. She says, yeah, no, you're hanging that thing over your face. I got no interest in it. He's lost the affections of the town. People are scared of him. He's lost his own ability to be happy, which begs the question we have to answer when we come back to this story later, and that is, well, you write it down. What is the question that you have right now about this guy in his black veil? Go ahead, write it down. The obvious question is what? Why? Why would you do this to yourself? Why would you put yourself in a situation where you're going to upset everybody around you and even yourself? Before we leave this topic, jump to 3B and ask yourself, have you ever done this in your whole life? Have you ever done something that made you and everybody around you miserable, but you kept doing it? You kept doing it. You didn't stop. You kept doing it. Have you ever done that before? Or has a friend of yours maybe ever done that? Come back and we will resume our conversation here in a little bit. Thank you.